To punish Taehyung and make him feel the same suffocating entrapment he had suffered for 2 years, Jungkook locked him in a spare bedroom. Taehyung was allowed no contact with the outside world. Heartbroken and feeling utterly hopeless, Taehyung stopped eating. He refused the plates of food the maids brought him, drinking only small sips of water. Within a week, his health deteriorated to a dangerous level. When Jungkook finally checked on him and saw Taehyung's sunken cheeks and lifeless eyes, a cold dread seized him. Fearing Taehyung would actually die, Jungkook reluctantly unlocked the door, allowing him to move around the mansion, though Taehyung remained a virtual prisoner, never allowed to leave the gates. The tension in the house escalated to a boiling point. One evening, Jungkook returned home heavily intoxicated, his mind clouded by alcohol and the persistent, agonizing memories of their past love. He stormed into Taehyung's room, pinning him to the bed, his grip bruising Taehyung's delicate wrists. "Why did you do it, Tae?" Jungkook mumbled against Taehyung's neck, his voice a mix of anger and desperate longing. "Why did you break me?" He kissed him roughly, a desperate attempt to reclaim a ghost. But Taehyung didn't fight back. He just lay there, tears streaming silently from his eyes into his hair, whispering softly, "Jungkook, please, remember who we were. Remember the library, of the promises. Please don't do this." The words acted like a bucket of ice water. Jungkook froze, staring at Taehyung's tear-stained face. The raw pain in Taehyung's eyes pierced through the alcohol-induced rage. Stumbling backward, Jungkook ran out of the room, locking himself in his study, crying bitterly for the monster he was becoming. But Jungkook's mansion was not a safe haven. Dongyul and Bogum still lived in a separate wing of the estate. When Jungkook was away on business, they seized the opportunity to torture Taehyung, furious that he had returned to Jungkook's life. "Look at you," Bogum sneered one afternoon, cornering Taehyung in the kitchen while the maids were away. He grabbed Taehyung's chin, forcing him to look up. "A useless little doll. Jungkook hates you. Why don't you let me show you what a real man can do?" Taehyung slapped Bogum's hand away, his eyes flashing with a spark of his old fire. "Don't touch me. I am Jungkook's husband. Get out of this house." Bogum laughed, slapped Taehyung hard across the face, throwing him to the floor, and kicked him in the ribs. "Husband, you're a prisoner. And soon, we'll make sure Jungkook throws you out like trash." Shortly after, Jungkook had to leave for an urgent 2-week international business trip to Europe. He left without saying goodbye to Taehyung, still unable to face him after the night he had tried to force himself on him. Those 2 weeks became a living hell for Taehyung. With Jungkook gone, Dongyul and Bogum practically moved into the mansion. They ordered the maids to stay in their quarters and locked Taehyung in the basement. For days, they starved him, only giving him dirty water. When Taehyung grew too weak to stand, Bogum would drag him up to the living room, physically beating him, leaving painful bruises across his ribs, back, and thighs. Despite the physical and psychological torture, Taehyung remained fiercely loyal to Jungkook, refusing Bogum's continuous disgusting advances. On the day of Jungkook's return, Taehyung was dragged back to his bedroom, his body aching and covered in hidden bruises. When Jungkook entered the room that evening, Taehyung crawled off the bed, clutching his bruised ribs. "Jae Jungkook," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Please, you have to listen to me. Your cousin, Bogum, he tried to assault me. He and your uncle. They've been hurting me while you were gone." Jungkook, exhausted from his trip and still blinded by his deeply ingrained prejudice, looked at Taehyung's disheveled state and sneered. "Are you still trying to play your cheap games, Taehyung?" Jungkook asked, his voice dripping with disgust. "Bogum has been working tirelessly at the office while I was away. He wouldn't touch someone like you. Stop lying to try and ruin my family. You'll do anything to create drama, won't you?" Taehyung stared at him, his heart shattering into microscopic dust. You don't believe me?" "I don't believe a single word that comes out of your mouth. Do you think I'm a fool? Bogum is family. He has everything he could ever want. Why would he touch someone as filthy as you?" "Taehyung," Jungkook said coldly, turning his back and walking out. The next afternoon, Bogum decided to play his final card. He cornered Taehyung in the hallway upstairs, grabbing his waist and pulling him close, tearing at Taehyung's shirt. Taehyung fought back with everything he had, screaming for him to stop. Hearing the loud commotion from his study down the hall, Jungkook rushed out and threw open the door. The moment the door opened, Bogum quickly changed his posture. He let go of Taehyung, stumbling backward as if he had been pushed, his clothes intentionally rumpled. Jungkook, Bogum gasped, faking panic and distress. Thank God you're here. I came up to deliver some business files, and Taehyung. He cornered me. He tried to seduce me, Jungkook. He said he was lonely because you don't touch him. Taehyung's eyes widened in horror. No, that's a lie. Jungkook, please, he's lying. He was trying to hurt me. Jungkook's vision went entirely red. The betrayal, the lies, the sheer audacity of Taehyung trying to seduce his own cousin in his own home was the final straw. He stepped forward, and with a resounding force, his hand connected with Taehyung's cheek. Slap! The force of the blow sent Taehyung crashing to the floor. His lips split, blood dripping onto the polished wooden floor. Get out, Bogum, Jungkook said, his voice shaking with a terrifying quiet rage. Jungkook, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I said get out. Jungkook roared. Once Bogum scrambled out of the house, Jungkook locked the bedroom door. That night was a blur of absolute terror for Taehyung. Jungkook, completely blinded by fury and pain, brutally mistreated him, dragging him by his hair, screaming insults, and forcing him to stay on his knees on the cold floor all night as punishment. Taehyung stopped resisting. He didn't cry. He didn't beg. He simply stared at the wall, his soul completely leaving his body. He looked up at Jungkook, not with anger, but with a profound, crushing pity. The person I sacrificed my life for, Taehyung realized, will never believe me. I broke my own heart to keep him alive, and this is my reward. The next morning, the mansion was silent. Jungkook had left early for his office, driven by a gnawing sense of guilt and unease that he couldn't shake off. Taehyung sat on the cold floor of the bathroom. The physical pain in his body was nothing compared to the absolute, suffocating darkness in his mind. He looked at his reflection in the mirror, pale, hollow, covered in bruises, with dead eyes. I'm so tired, he whispered to the empty room. He reached into the medicine cabinet and pulled out a small, sharp razor blade. He looked at his thin wrist, tracing the blue veins beneath his skin. I kept my promise, Jungkookie, Taehyung whispered, a soft, heartbreaking smile touching his lips. I protected you, but I can't do this anymore. Please, forgive me. With a slow, deliberate movement, he pressed the blade deep into his left wrist, dragging it across. The warm crimson blood erupted instantly, dripping onto the white tile floor. Taehyung slumped against the bathtub, closed his eyes, and let the darkness take him. At the Jeon Group headquarters, Jungkook sat at his desk, staring blankly at a contract. The image of Taehyung's empty, hollow eyes from the night before kept flashing in his mind, making his chest tighten painfully. Suddenly, the heavy glass doors of his office were thrown open. His secretary tried to stop them, but Jimin, Taehyung's younger brother, and his boyfriend, Min Yoongi Suga, stormed into the room. Jimin's eyes were red, swollen, and filled with a mixture of absolute rage and grief. John Jungkook, Jimin screamed, running toward the desk. Yoongi held him back, but his own face was dark with fury. How dare you barge in here? Jungkook started, standing up. You monster, Jimin choked out, tears streaming down his face. What have you done to my brother? Where is Taehyung? Why did you kidnap him? Taehyung is my husband, Jimin. His whereabouts are none of your concern, Jungkook replied coldly. Your husband? Jimin laughed hysterically, a sound of pure pain. You kept him as a prisoner, the boy who gave up his entire life, his happiness, his college education, just so you could live. Jungkook froze, his heart skipping a beat. What are you talking about? Yoongi stepped forward, throwing a thick manila folder onto Jungkook's desk. Open it, Jeon. Look at the truth you were too blind to see. With trembling hands, Jungkook opened the folder. Inside were medical reports from 3 years ago, detailing the staged car accident. There were voice recordings, transcripts of his uncle Dongyul threatening Taehyung, and bank statements showing how Dongyul had blacklisted Taehyung's family. Your uncle threatened to kill you, Jungkook, Yoongi said, his voice deadly quiet. He planned that car accident 3 years ago as a warning. He told Taehyung that if he didn't leave you and make you hate him, the next accident would be fatal. Taehyung agreed to leave you to save your life. He lived in poverty, worked 3 jobs, and danced in clubs just to pay for his father's medical bills and protect you from his uncle. Jungkook's heart stopped. The room felt like it was spinning. No, that's not. Taehyung told me. Taehyung lied to save your life, you idiot. Suga snarled. And what did you do? You dragged him back, married him by force? If you don't break his heart, boy, the next truck won't miss. Every cold word Jungkook had said to Taehyung, every slap, every accusation of betrayal flashed through his mind like a blinding, agonizing lightning strike. He had destroyed the boy who had ruined himself to save him. No, Jungkook gasped, his face turning ghostly pale. No, no, no. Without another word, Jungkook bolted out of the office, ignoring Jimin and Suga's shouts. He ran to his car, driving like a madman through the city streets, running red lights, his heart hammering violently against his ribs. Please let him be okay. Please, God, let him be okay. He arrived at the mansion, throwing the car door open and sprinting inside. Taehyung, Taehyung, he screamed, his voice cracking with sheer panic. He ran up the stairs, his heart pounding a frantic, terrifying rhythm against his ribs. He threw open the bedroom door. The room was empty, but the bathroom door was slightly ajar. Jungkook pushed it open. The sight that met his eyes would haunt him for the rest of his days. Taehyung was slumped against the bathtub, his skin a sickening translucent pale. His left arm hung limply, and a deep, dark pool of blood covered the pristine white tiles. No, 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 Taehyung! Jungkook screamed. Jungkook collapsed to his knees, his hands shaking violently as he pulled Taehyung into his arms, pressing his hand against the bleeding wrist to stop the flow. Taehyung! Taehyung! Look at me! Wake up, please! Jungkook screamed, his voice cracking into a hysterical sob. He cradled Taehyung's head against his chest, rocking him back and forth. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, please don't leave me. Taehyung's heavy eyelids fluttered open, just a fraction. His eyes were unfocused, glassy and fading fast. He looked up at Jungkook's tear-stained face, and a soft, incredibly sad smile touched his lips. Now, Taehyung weakly whispered, his voice barely a breath. Perhaps you will believe me, Jungkook. I believe you. I believe everything. Just stay with me, please, I beg you. He weakly lifted his right hand, his fingers barely brushing Jungkook's tear-stained cheek. I'm so tired, Jungkookie, Taehyung whispered. I'm so exhausted. It hurt so much. Taehyung's hand slipped from his cheek, falling limply onto the blood-stained floor. His eyes closed and he went completely still. Taehyung, open your eyes, please, Jungkook bellowed, lifting him in his arms and rushing down the stairs.